Here at gameranx, we spend a lot of time dunking on AAA games, you know? Lots of them have lots of problems, but we'll admit there's still plenty that we are looking forward to trying out. So today, let's just keep it chill and simple and round up 10 upcoming big budget games we're actually looking forward to. Starting off at number 10, let's get the obvious dumb one out of the way, Grand Theft Auto 6. Look, the world needs more open world crime games, especially after so many years of copycats. Now it's a dry spell, and Rockstar is finally descending from, I guess, their little mountaintop to really deliver one. Hopefully this year, if the current release date actually holds. We don't know for sure, but it's a game that is probably going to be an inevitable success. Think of the mainstream appeal, the mainstream brand recognition here. It's a game that's kind of tempting to take for granted because it is GTA and it's going to be huge. So at times, it might seem like we're not actually all that excited about it, but believe me when I say that we here at gameranx, we're pretty hyped for it. The biggest hurdle with talking about GTA 6 is that, like, even after all this time, there's not actually a lot we know about it. The whole project is still shrouded in a lot of mystery. We know a lot of things about it. We have, like, a general idea about the story, the location, and some of the characters, but then other than that, it's really just like a black hole of information. We've seen leaks, we've seen rumors, but it's unclear of what is actually going to be in the game. Games can and will change quite a bit over the course of development. Still, if even half of the stuff that is leaked is actually in the game, this could be pretty crazy. It could be an all-timer. I'm liking the direction that they're going with the story. The setting looks immersive and as detailed as ever, and honestly, it's just nice to have a new open-world crime game thing to play. There's just something uniquely enticing about these types of games, and if you like them, you get it. You know, it sucks that basically everybody except Rockstar has kind of given up on them. We all know why. It's definitely because Rockstar is like the king of them and they take a lot of time and money to make. But really, it's the writing, the story, the level of detail and sophistication of a Rockstar game. They're just operating on a whole nother level of fidelity and quality. That being said, there's been a lot of high-level leadership changes since Red Dead Redemption 2, and we're really curious to see if Rockstar can continue moving forward with less of the Hauser's influence. Hopefully Rockstar puts out some sort of kind of like deep dive little gameplay breakdown video sometime this year so we can finally get a proper idea of what the game is actually going to be about, like how it plays and what you're doing, because I think I speak for everyone when I say that, like, we need to know more. Now at number 9, 007 First Light. You know, maybe EA and especially Activision overused the license and put out some really rough games, but it was kind of nice to just be getting consistent 007 games for a while there. I played all of them. I love them all, even if some of them were absolute, complete disasters. I don't care. Look, if there's one movie franchise almost perfectly suited for video games, it's James Bond, man, and now does feel like the perfect time to bring him back. AAA cinematic third-person action games almost feel like a dying breed this day. A lot of studios really perfected it, like, you know, we peaked with Uncharted, so it is refreshing to see something like this getting a release that's more of a straightforward action romp than yet another open world game or free-to-play first-person shooter or whatever. This is just a video game-ass game. You play through it, you're James Bond, the end. Now, while the trailers have emphasized action, one of the main reasons why IO Interactive is working with this because they were shown to be capable of making a game where you weren't constantly relying on guns to solve problems. You were using your brain. The experience making the Hitman games for so long is specifically mentioned as to why the license holders were excited about their new vision for Bond, and that's a big reason why we're excited too. Look, Daniel Craig is done. We don't know who the next real movie Bond is, so we get a fresh Bond here in video game form. There's still a lot of questions like, you know, how is the game going to be paced? How much stealth or social stealth is there actually going to be? How much all-out action? And the car stuff. We've only seen little glimpses here and there of all that stuff, so we still have a lot of questions, but we're hoping this is just a good, fun adventure to play through that really respects the legacy of James Bond while also not being afraid to try something a little different, do something cool with it. It's a young Bond first getting into the whole thing, so there is a lot of opportunity there, and we really hope that IO can take advantage of that. They're gameplay kings, but for me, they're story games, which it's been a while since they've really had a story-focused game, but they're a little bit more hit and miss. Still, I got a lot of love for them. I like the types of games they make, and we're hoping 007 First Light is awesome. Next to number 8, this is not something that we talk about often, but like the Gears of War franchise was and still is so good. As co-op games, they're still some of the most fun you can have with a friend. And then as third-person competitive shooters, like they're unanimously excellently paced, entertaining, thrill rides that play like butter. They're smooth. Gears of War 2 and 3 we go back to all the time. And I still feel like a lot of the lesser games in the franchise, like Judgment, for the campaign at least, is worth mentioning. These games are entertaining as hell, and it's been far too long since we've gotten a brand new entry. So that's why we're hyped for Gears of War E-Day. It's a game that really feels like it's been a long time coming, and while it's kind of unfortunate that they're not actually progressing the story and instead are going backwards to make a prequel, hey, at the end of the day, like the plot, like the overall plot for Gears doesn't matter too much. It's more about the individual moments and the characters, and people are really excited to go back to this setting and go back to OG Dom and Marcus. I think it's time. Plus, we're here for the intense third-person shooting and set-piece heavy action. If they are capable of making a new game that matches that relentless great pacing of the series at its best, then we are all for it. And it doesn't really matter like when it takes place. So in some ways, it's actually pretty exciting to go back to Emergence Day. This is the event where the Locust Horde first invaded, like in the Gears of War lore. So all the convoluted stuff, all the character drama is gone. The collective is wiping the slate clear here to put the focus of this game firmly back on the intensity of the action and the horror aspect of the series that has been kind of abandoned over the years. The first game, Gears of War 1, had a lot of spooky elements, and it's cool that they're talking about trying to bring back some of that feel. I know they tried bringing back some of the scariness with Gears 4, but this one might actually really pull it off, especially if it's got that feeling and flavor of the original games. Now look, these games were never like really all that scary, but like if this new game can manage that dark, grim atmosphere of the original, then that's what we would like to see. That, and of course, get the shooting right. In this day and age, this series' brand of like very sticky third-person cover is old-fashioned, but there's still so much to it. It's just fun. So I'm curious to see how they're going to keep the feel of the original while trying something different and trying to keep things fresh. They've talked about the campaign, but one aspect of the game that they've been pretty hush-hush about is multiplayer. We don't know what's going on. Gears is a series that thrives in multiplayer. It's still being played today, and it would be crazy of them not to go include some kind of multiplayer with this game. But again, so far we haven't heard anything official. There's not much to this one, really, because it's just, another Gears game. They're not trying to reinvent the wheel or take the series in some crazy new direction like space or something. It seems like they just want to make another one. And as fans of the series, it's all we could really ask for. Next at number 7, with the release rapidly approaching, we're finally learning a lot more about what you're going to be doing in Crimson Desert, and it looks even crazier than we even imagined. It's a game that we've often mentioned looks almost too good to be true. We've talked about it in a couple of videos that way, but the more we learn about it, the more it seems like it might be the real deal. It was a game we were excited about before when they were just dropping random snippets of boss fights and stuff like clips, but now they're putting out full-on deep dives into the game's content, and it's all starting to finally come together. It's not just some faraway thing that'll probably never live up to expectations. Like, this is an actual game very close to release, and just looking at comments and stuff, it does seem like a lot of people are hyped for it, and we're excited to see what's up. Like, will it actually live up to expectations? We don't know, but that's honestly what makes us excited to finally try it. And not just in some limited capacity where, your experience has been carefully tailored, like a preview and stuff. We've checked out previews. It seems cool, but we just want to experience the full game without the guardrails. This game has a lot of mechanic depth to it. Like, there's just a lot of gameplay concepts here, and we're excited to see how they all can actually come together. Will it collapse under the weight of its own ambition, or will it be absolutely awesome? The boss fights look spectacular, the scale of the world is incredible, and the combat gives you a lot of options that it looks kind of head-spinning. It's crazy to see this from the developers of Black Desert Online, which is a crazy weird mess of a game, but Crimson Desert really could live up to the hype and then some. Still don't know about the story and the characters. It really seems like it's like gameplay first and foremost, and that's fine. Look, even if it doesn't live up to expectations, then it's still shaping up to be something that's definitely fascinatingly weird. And I mean that in a good way. Next at number 6, speaking of weird, the first Control was really a breakthrough game for Remedy, so it seemed like the easiest path ahead was to just make another one. Do a Control 2, bring back Jessie, everybody loved her, keep the third-person shooting, it played great, just do something safe and recognizable. Control Resonant, that they recently announced, this is anything but a safe sequel. I'm not even sure if it is a sequel. We know it's set 7 years after the first Control and stars Jessie's brother, Dylan, which, if you saw him in the first game, is crazy enough. But on top of that, this game is a melee-focused action game set in a kind of open but not open world kind of environment. They're describing it as an action RPG, and while the first game had some RPG elements, like this game is taking that stuff a lot further. This is like all new territory for the studio, so it's risky, but beyond the initial shock of the announcement, the direction they're going here makes sense, and it looks awesome. They're leaning further into the weirder side of the Control universe with a character who's not a fish out of water, but a guy who's already peered outside the veil of reality. You know, the game is bringing the weirdness of the oldest house out into the rest of the world here, and with even stranger anomalies and like twisting, impossible landscapes. The trailer looked so cool. There are still side quests and character building apparently, and we know that Dylan has a device similar to the service weapon called the Aberrant, which is able to change into different weapon forms. There's not a lot known about this game other than that, but when it comes to Remedy games, you don't really need to know much to get on board. Nobody really does games quite like these guys. I mean, they really march to their beat of their own drum, and that's especially with this new Control, going in a totally wild, different direction. It's tough. That type of combat, that Devil May Cry, Bayonetta style hack and slash RPG stuff like that is something that needs to be fine-tuned and perfected, and we're really excited to see how Remedy gets their hands on those concepts. Plus, too, as long as it tells a great story and cool atmosphere, we are just so in. Next at number 5, the new Fable. This was announced back in 2018, and for a while it felt like this was going to be yet another game from Microsoft Game Studios to get canceled. But recently, the reboot's developer Playground Games have actually had the chance to really genuinely show it off. It's a real game, it's actually coming, and it looks surprisingly cool. One thing that immediately got us excited about this one was the prospect of the developers of the Forza Horizon series just making a different kind of open world game. These guys are a steady hand at this point that consistently do good work with that franchise, but they've never really quite made something like Fable before, which is intriguing. How will it turn out? We don't know, but it's an interesting one. It seems to get what made the Fable series so charming back in the day. But this time they're doing it with an actual seamless open world that looks incredible and seems to have that kind of distinctly English charm that made the old games just so memorable and kind of funny. Yes, you can own property in this game, and you can marry any NPC. And the most interesting thing is that there are 1,000 NPCs, and apparently every single one is a unique character with their own daily routines and lives, and there's around 1,000 of them total, like I said. So that's pretty crazy. That's really ambitious. That's the sort of thing that you just don't see that often anymore, and it's refreshing. So many modern open world games really neglect the NPC experience or interaction or lived-in feeling, but this game seems to be trying to match or even exceed some games in that department. You still get a lot of choices to do good things or evil things, but the distinction is more subtle this time, and it's more about reputation in towns. So no, you're not turning into a literal angel or a cool badass demon, which definitely is disappointing. That bums me out. But if they make it so your choices have more of an impact on the actual world in front of you, then I guess we can let it slide. They just have to nail it. The lack of a dog is also a little disappointing, but that's a little bit more minor. Look, everything else about Fable so far they've shown looks cool. It's really interesting. Like, I know it's not as mind-blowing as Control or Crimson Desert, but that fits the tone of Fable. It's not flashy or crazy. It's more subtle and a kind of down-to-earth, cool, quirky fantasy. But again, what they've shown is really impressive, and we're just excited to learn more. As of right now, it's slated for fall 2026. We'll see if it actually makes that release date, but either way, we're just going to probably replay Fable 1 and 2 for now. Next at number 4, The Elder Scrolls 6, another obvious one. I mean, come on, man. It is the follow-up to Skyrim, which was a massive, like, record-breaking game, sold a lot of copies, and a lot of people out there who barely even know what Elder Scrolls is as a franchise still know Skyrim. That's how much staying power that game had. But look, we're coming up on 8 years since this game was announced, and still nobody really knows anything about it. We don't even know what province the game will be set in. There's rumors, suggestions, and stuff, but still. And even the fact that we don't know anything, we are still really excited for it. Because, look, it's the next Elder Scrolls game. That's big. And while Starfield may have been a little bit of a misstep for the studio, it's a little bit more divisive, it's hard to imagine them screwing up a return to their classic open world RPG roots with Elder Scrolls 6, or at least it's hard to imagine, because if I did imagine it, I'd be really, really upset. Look, it's known that the game is currently in more active development, but that's literally it. Everything else is just rumors and hearsay. The most commonly held belief is that the game's landmass will be Hammerfell, the region from the original Elder Scrolls games, but like that's just as likely to be anywhere else. Like, who knows? All that matters is that Bethesda sticks to what made the classic games so great. There needs to be that element of immersive simulation where you can manipulate objects, enter every building, every NPC has a house and a schedule they follow. It doesn't matter that this sort of thing might limit the world or make it unrealistically small. So much of the appeal of these games is the little interconnected details that bring this world to life. The cool lore, the little stories you stumble across, the little stories you make yourself. And if the Elder Scrolls 6 doesn't have that type of flavor, then Bethesda loses the plot. Look, I expect after a lot of the critical feedback to Starfield's changes to the formula, then they're probably going to learn, but that's not a guarantee. We don't know. The thing is, Starfield, in my opinion, was not terrible or anything, but it was just missing some of the stuff that people have come to expect from a good Bethesda game. And I hope Elder Scrolls 6 has all that stuff and more. This needs to feel like a leap, not just like a little skip, you know? Skyrim is still an all-time great open world game, even at 15. I don't think it's overrated or anything like that, but all we want is more of that. It can be better. They can make it the ultimate role-playing experience if they really want, but as long as they at least match that level of interactivity and personality, then that's all we need to be excited for this one. Now, down at number 3, Marvel's Blade. At first, it might seem a little disappointing that Arcane Studios, you know, the guys behind some of the greatest immersive sims of the modern era, are stuck making a comic book tie-in game. But the more you think about it, the more the pairing makes sense. It's like a match made in heaven. For one thing, it's kind of crazy how there was never really a great Blade game after all. I mean, they tried with the movie-based games, but look, their premise alone is perfect for video games. There's so much potential in playing as a badass vampire hunter with all kinds of cool weapons and tools, and he also has some powers himself. Look, giving this character to Arcane is a gift. I don't think it's a curse. At least that's how it feels right now. We haven't seen the game, but they're essentially giving them carte blanche to make a dream game that combines Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines and Dishonored. And while it's going to be a third-person game rather than first-person, which is the studio's bread and butter, look, I'm expecting some good things from this one. I know Arcane and vampires seems like a bad combination after Redfall, but this is their opportunity to really redeem themselves. And hell, they finally get to make a game set in Paris, something that it felt like they were kind of trying to do for years. So I fully expect them to really double down on the sort of cool, crumbling beauty that is so characteristic of their art style. Having Arcane work on a licensed property might sound like they're trying to ice skate uphill, but if anyone can make a great Blade game, then it's probably going to be Arcane. I will bet on them. I got high hopes for this one, both because I finally want to see a great game featuring Blade like this, and because anything new from Arcane is still reason enough to be excited, missteps aside. Also, it feels like Marvel is totally fumbling that Blade movie that they announced. It feels like that's never going to happen, so I will absolutely take this game. This game actually sounds cooler. Now down at number 2, sticking with superheroes, we got Marvel's, or Insomniac's, Wolverine. These are the developers of things like Ratchet and Clank, and they've been consistently knocking it out of the park with their Spider-Man games, and now they're tackling another big legendary character with Wolverine, who's had a few decent games in the past, but it looks like this will finally be the big AAA gore fest that the guy deserves. While we still don't know a lot about this game and like what it will be, we know that Insomniac is not holding back on the violence. They definitely showed that in the trailer. This is clearly an M-rated take on the character. This is almost like insane. It's like Mortal Kombat level violence. But the statement of intent is clear. You know, this isn't going to be a kiddie or safe take on the character. It's something new and a pretty big departure from Insomniac's Spider-Man games, which are very firmly T for teen games. You know, you don't see Spider-Man ripping anybody's face off. In terms of presentation and style, I do expect this to be pretty similar to the Spider-Man games, even just the way some of the cutscenes in the trailer and the way stuff is framed, it just feels similar. And in terms of gameplay, I'm expecting like a lot of crazy, satisfying combat and cool over-the-top set pieces, but how that all ties together, I'm not sure yet. Leaks suggest that Wolverine will not be open world, but instead it's going to have a kind of hub which connects to large open-ish levels, which would make sense for Wolverine. I mean, he's not a guy known for his traversal powers, he's not flying, so a full open world game might not make sense. But if they're focusing on brawling, which it kind of looks like, I am happy. New Insomniac games are always reason to be excited for the most part, and a new Wolverine game made at this level of quality is even more reason to be excited. There are few characters in comics as well suited to be in an action kind of brawler game than like Wolverine. Even though he originally debuted in like what, the 70s, the guy is custom made to be a badass video game protagonist. And while we have gotten a few decent turns from him in the past, like I said, it's been a long time. Most people don't remember those games. And this could easily be the best Wolverine video game like ever. As long as they nail it. Hopefully they do. Now, finally down at number 1, Resident Evil 9 or Resident Evil Requiem. It's only a few short weeks away now from the time we're recording, and the more we learn about it, the more excited we are. Ever since the series kind of revitalized itself and freshened things up with Resident Evil 7, every new game in the series feels like an event again. It's exciting. Sure, the remakes are some of the best ever, but even when they surprise us, at the end of the day, they're still just remakes of something we have played. Resident Evil Requiem is something new, and while Capcom has revealed a lot more about it recently, there's still so much that is still unknown about it. Sure, they've revealed zombies and a particularly ugly-looking stalker enemy, but what else is going on with the infection in Requiem? What's the structure here? There's always some kind of twist, and I'm dying to find out what kind of weird demented thing they've managed to cook up here. The mix of action and more horror-focused gameplay styles is pretty exciting. It's something that Resident Evil 6 tried to do, but this game clearly looks like it's being way more successful at it. Simply by sticking to what works. Leon looks like he's going to play like an even more effective version of himself from Resident Evil 4 Remake, with the parries and all that. And then Grace's gameplay looks more like for people who got into the series with Resident Evil 7 and 8. The tight focused survival horror, inventory management, and first-person view. Of course, you have the option to switch, but still. There are so many new concepts being introduced here, like this blood infusion system with crafting and these new and improved zombies that behave in more unpredictable ways. But what's really exciting about Requiem is that we're just getting more Resident Evil. These recent games have been masterclasses in horror gameplay. They're really consistently well designed, engaging, and fun. But now Capcom is having a little fun with the lore and they're doing stuff. They brought Leon back. They're bringing back Raccoon City. They're referencing the events of the original games. And I'm really excited to see what they can do with that and how they can meld in new characters like Grace with old characters like Leon and push the franchise forward. Lots of questions and a lot of things they have to land. I really hope they nail it, but we'll know for sure soon, like I said, when it's releasing, and we'll do it before you buy a video on it, so keep your eyes peeled for that. But those are 10 games we're looking forward to playing. Just some big old, silly, high-budget AAA games. If there's some out there that you're curious about, let us know in the comments. But thanks for just, talking games with us today. We appreciate it. We're here every single day for you. Clicking the like button helps us. Subscribing if you're new, also a good idea. But either way, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.